was actually quite pleased to see a boring 1-0 victory. You want to see some determined performances.
We couldn't even control the ball.
Got every right to be discontented. Things have been bad under the Glazers. If you haven't got a Manchester United team in a decent stadium, what is the point of having, like Tottenham, having a venue?
Why sell him? Paul, you've got your opinions on Garnacho.
If someone's going to come in and pay silly money, you sell him.
I think it's laughable. I'll go as far as saying it's laughable.
The sort of beauty parade that he's going on.
You know, doing an interview and saying that you essentially want out, it seems a bit reckless.
And he's let himself down.
He needs to wake up. I think he's still going to be a Manchester United player come 11 o'clock on Monday night.
If he stays, should that happen?
If he ain't going to change his ways, you're not going to have to send him away.
Hello and welcome to Inside Devils talkSPORT's main night show, bringing you the latest news and reaction coming out of Old Trafford. What a week it has been for the Red Devils. A late 2-1 win at home against Rangers was followed up by a victory at Craven Cottage on Sunday night, and there's still plenty of work to do under Ruben Amorim. But we're going in the right direction. That is all we can ask for, going in the right direction and getting wins under our belt. Joining me is, of course, Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly, and a warm welcome to the show former Manchester United fullback Paul Parker. He's two-time Premier League winner as well. Welcome to Inside Devils, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Now let's turn our attention to Sunday night's game at Fulham. A late Alejandro Martinez strike ensured all 3 points were sent back to Old Trafford, moving us up to 12th. Yeah, mid-table, we are coming for you in the Premier League. Paul, you played for both clubs. What did you think of the game? I mean, it was at this point when we need wins, we need results more than anything. It's important to get 3 points, but a lot of people were talking about how bad we were for large parts of the game as an attacking force.
Well, it just boils down to now the levels that United are. They've gone to those kind of words, which I hate people saying because it's such a cop-out, but a win is a win. That's how it's got to where United are at this moment in time. They are at that level. And going to Fulham, which is normally you think that there's always something there for United when they go there, but they're good games. And did United drag Fulham down to their levels? Because it wasn't a great Fulham performance
either. They didn't really test on it.
They didn't really have a go. And as I said, I've mentioned earlier, is that United's weakness is pace and energy. And every time when you've seen them disappoint this season is when they've been overrun by average teams. Simple as that. And it's happened far too many times over the years, but more so this season. It's been seen and found out. Fulham never used it. And Fulham just fell into that trap of a team that overplayed and didn't achieve anything. So coming out of the game with a 1-0 win with a deflected goal is an absolute bonus, but not one you're going to talk about for too long.
Yeah, exactly, Ange. I mean, you're looking at the level of performance, like Paul said, it wasn't great, but it's about the 3 points. Is that where it's most important for us now? Because the level of performance with the lack of players that suit Amorim's style, the dross that's gone on before he's got there, the things going on in the dressing room, Man United, all of that stuff, right? It's more important to just win games and ease that pressure, because when you lose and losing every week, we saw what type of pressure was for Ruben Amorim. Yeah,
definitely. I think at this point, you have to accept what we're dealing with. And it is a win is a win. You don't like to say that. You don't want to see poor performances. You don't want to sit through 75 minutes of thinking, what am I even watching? But this is the situation that we're in. We need points, and however we get those points, it doesn't really matter at this point. I said point a lot there, didn't I? But yeah, you just have to, sometimes you do have to grind these results out. I agree, maybe it was kind of bringing Fulham down to our level, because I expected more from a team that, have beaten Chelsea, have taken points from Arsenal, from Liverpool. I did expect more. They had the chances maybe the first 15 minutes and obviously didn't capitalise on it. But, yeah, I allowed myself to kind of celebrate it and just take it for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, Crookie, the away end was absolutely bouncing. The support from Man United was very loud, making their voices heard. Are the players starting to show passion and respect back to the faithful now? You look at Alejandro Martinez talking after the game, the response that they're showing after games to connect with the fans, especially the match-going fans.
Well, listen, I'm not going to over-egg it too much with this team, because the next catastrophe, the next disaster is only ever around the corner. But I was actually quite pleased to see a boring 1-0 victory, because it's been too much of a roller coaster, isn't it? That Southampton game when we made probably the worst team the Premier League's ever seen, looked like Real Madrid for 80 minutes. Rangers giving them a late equaliser, and you thought, well, this is a problem, and they go and get the winner at the other end, which is a brilliant moment. But actually, you want to see some dogged, determined performances, and there were players who stepped up. I thought Bruno Fernandes showed his leadership skills. I thought Harry Maguire probably was United's best player, having made a real calamitous error towards the end of that Rangers game. So you can see it as a sign of progress, the ability to go away from home against a good Fulham side who've pulled up many trees this season, and to be able to see out the victory. But it was no more than that. You know, I'm not going to say this is a huge corner turn, because let's see what happens on Thursday night.
Absolutely, we definitely can't say that. I mean, after the last Premier League game, like you said, against Brighton, we had to bounce back with a win. So we can't get carried away. Paul, I wanted to talk about some more positives, really, from winning the game. But young Toby Collier, he's getting a little bit of an opportunity under Ruben Amorim now. Casemiro completely overlooked now, so that shows what Ruben Amorim thinks about the pecking order in midfield. But, a goal line clearance, which is, a match-saving action from him. Lisandro Martinez went on to talk about how humble he is. He's really happy for this kid because he's just working hard, getting his head down, and doing what he needs to do, and he's being rewarded. He seems like a real good character for such a young age, but more importantly, he's looking like he can have a say in this Man United midfield.
Well, what he does add a little bit of pace and energy, which they haven't got. If you're looking for real energy in that midfield, the only one you got in there, even though it's a little bit ill-disciplined, would be Fernandes. But Toby's come in, and he's just got a little bit of a presence about him. He plays in a no-fuss way. He can move with the ball quicker than Mainu, even though I think Cobby's a good player, and he's going to be a good player. But the manager's trying at the moment, he's trying to win games, or I should say, trying to remain unbeaten. I think if we look at it that way, and Toby coming in, his stature's good as well. He's brave, and as we're seeing, he senses a bit of danger, the goal line clearance. That's gonna be with him. Commentators will mention it in his next appearance. That'll be mentioned again. So it's put him up there in a position now where, because he plays for Manchester United, people will be looking to take shots at him. So that will test him as well over these next few games as well, how he carries on from there. And that'll be a test for him as a Manchester United player. Given the scenario as well, it's even tougher. But I like what I see in him. There's a reason why the manager's playing him, and I get that as well. So I still think he's got to maybe go a little further into those young lads down there, maybe use them. If nothing's going to come in this window, but we may find out later from Alex.
He's got something for us,
But if nothing's going to come in, then I think he might have to go and look in there, and he might have to go and find someone who can maybe play through the middle, up front, just somebody who's going to run in behind with purpose. And if it means a young player coming in maybe that little touch early, you never know what might become with that young player. It might just make his career.
We've got Chido Martin from Arsenal, and I've seen a lot of fans sort of saying, how bad can it be?
Correct.
For yourself, I mean, you've been in many dressing rooms, you've played with some of the best. When do you start looking to somebody who maybe they might not be ready? Does it do more damage than good if you put them in too early in a volatile team like Man United that's got a lot of issues? Or do you go down the route of how bad can it get? Your senior strikers aren't doing anything. They're younger themselves, but throw the kid in,
Well, when I was talking about it before, it was always because United were always in a better place. And when I turned up at United, there was a young player, young skinny kid from Salford, was Ryan Giggs. And he got his game at the back end of the 1991 season. So when I arrived, Ryan was there. But then the team was in a good place. They're just coming off the back of the Cup Winners' Cup. And then there was then you talk about 93-ish, there was young players coming through, those lads, those ones they keep talking about for some reason. They come in, but the thing was as well, it was an established team, as a team that was in a good place, playing good football with good pros.
Exactly.
Which were going to help them. There was no jealousy or anything, nothing like that at all. These were because we just wanted to win games and win medals and win trophies.
So do you think that could be an issue in the modern day now? If you're looking at someone like, let's say, Chido Obi Martin, to say, Rasmus is not quite doing it, it's actually strong. You're saying to him, maybe look at that, but how do you manage that dynamic of the things you're talking about? Because Man United don't possess that, do they?
Everything has to be right in there for a young player. You don't want experienced players, older players who have got issues with the manager, with a coach and thing, and them kind of being in and around a young player, because they don't know the mentality of the young player, so he could kind of thinks of, oh my God, he could feel under pressure before he gets on the park.
Yeah.
There could be that player who's deadpan, who ain't fazed by it, like a Ryan Giggs would be anyway. He wouldn't have bothered Ryan if there was big problems. Ryan would have gone out and just played for Ryan Giggs. But he was in when he come in, good lads. He had a great captain there as well, and Brian Robson, who would have fended all the bad eggs off and said, oi. So what do you do? But given the moment, when you're in the position where Amorim's in it, only he knows if it's right, and he must know the character of that young player to bring him in. And when you talk about a centre forward and looking at this lad and his goal record and scoring goals, I would say he's a bit selfish. So for me to put him in, I don't think it's going to bother him.
Rasmus Højlund's received a lot of criticism at the minute, a lot of spotlight for a real tough night at Craven Cottage, really. Could have been hooked at half-time, played a little bit longer than that, Crookie. What have you made of Rasmus since he's come here? How much of it is, like what Paul's saying, he's a young striker himself, not very experienced, nobody to learn off, versus you're still playing for Man United, your own personal attributes, how good are they?
Yeah, listen, I don't think it's for the want to try, and I don't think you can question Højlund's commitment or the heart and desire, but I think you can now question his capabilities. I think he's regressed to me this season. No goals in his last 11 league games, only 2 Premier League goals all season. That isn't good enough, A, for a Manchester United striker, and B, for someone who's cost 72 million quid. Now, the transfer fee isn't his fault. I think, again, it's a case of United paying over the odds for somebody who really wasn't that sought after by rival clubs, and I've written about it in my notebook on the talkSPORT website today. I feel like Rasmus Højlund is almost on trial now for the rest of the season, because I'm not sure that Ruben Amorim is convinced either by him or Joshua Zirkzee. I think a new number 9 is going to be top of the shopping list come the summer. There are teams in Italy who would take him back. Obviously, he's proven in Serie A. So I think he's going to have to improve tenfold in order to convince people that he is going to be that Manchester United number 9. He's been here 2 years now. He's still a young player, but this is his second season, and I think you would like to have seen more progression.
And where do you stand on this? I don't want to say attribute of blame, but this sort of breakdown, this analysis of Rasmus Højlund, if we're talking about his time here. How much more does he need to improve as an individual versus the team doesn't help him? Because we talk about systems, we talk about he doesn't get enough chances, we talk about who's he learning off. But now it seems the spotlight is pivoting to, like what Crookie's basically saying, how good or bad he actually is as an individual.
It's more than just scoring goals, though, isn't it? In this system, you've got 2 number 10s, you've got the wing-backs you want to bomb on. The job of the number 9, if you're not scoring goals, is to hold the ball up and bring other people into play.
Yeah.
Simple.
He isn't doing it. It's bouncing off him. It's not sticking.
Yeah. There were a couple of situations in that Fulham game where he couldn't even control the ball. His touch was awful, and it's sad to see, but you have to look at, the bottom half of the table. You look at, number 9s or goal scorers. Like, he's not even close with his numbers. He's got 2 Premier League goals. That's the same as someone like Garnacho for Southampton. That's the kind of level he's at. Even Wolves for their issues, Ipswich for their issues, they still have somebody that can score goals. And you can complain about the lack of service, and I understand that. But there are stats, comparing him and Joshua Zirkzee, that Zirkzee is taking double the amount of chances. So they're getting the same kind of service, but Zirkzee is actually able to capitalise on it more. And he's had way more criticism. I mean, yeah, he's taken exactly double the amount of shots than Højlund per 90 minutes and more on target. That's somebody who has been, and I'm not Zirkzee's biggest fan, but that's somebody who is new to the club, has had a bit of a torrid time. So I would agree with Crookie that he has definitely regressed, and I would be surprised if he manages to convince Ruben Amorim by the end of this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, for me, before we move on, I just feel like as a striker at any level, any competent level, your bread and butter is you should be able to have a nice touch, just bring the ball down, bring people into play. If you're not getting chances, you're not getting a look at the goal. It's a team thing, it's a system thing. How my playing style versus the manager and the team, how do we sort that? But especially when you're in a bad team, the team needs to have an outlet to be able to say, can we give it to our striker just to relieve some pressure? Can we get them turned and know when to run far know when to come near, know when to come off into the pockets and link up, know when to take one touch, know when to take two. Like, he just doesn't have a feel for the game, and I'm not seeing enough improvement in that area. So Rasmus has got a lot to do, but I think it's coming down to, I just don't think he's going to be good enough, if I'm being honest. But it's still early, and I think that thing about on trial, I really agree with that. Just from off the pitch, Paul, we did see some fans confront Sir Jim Ratcliffe, wanting to pose for a picture first, and then saying, we don't want to pose for a picture, and had some unsavoury words to talk about, you know, the ticket prices and really put it on to Jim Ratcliffe. Away from the mode of which it was done, in terms of the sentiment, what did you make about fans, you know, doing that to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and fan discontent at the minute?
They've got every right to be discontented because it's not what they're expecting. Things have been bad under the Glazers, but he's gone now, and he's laying off people, and he's laying off people at the wrong end of the scale, people down there. Then all of a sudden he's talking about the players, the ambassadors, about them, and they do a hell of a lot of travelling for Manchester United. People think it's easy, but yes, it's comfortable. They're not, not doing. They're not hard lying what they're doing, but they're still having to give up a lot of time, and they are being paid for it. But then to bring them up and get them involved, it seems to be going about it the wrong way. But then to talk about the pricing, and then you're seeing then all of a sudden the next bit is talking about, we've got maybe issues with the PSR, and it could affect. You think yourself, hold a minute. As a fan, you're going, well, that wasn't my fault that you've gone and paid over the odds for these players. It's you haven't done your job, so why should a fan,
we have to foot the bill?
Expect it?
Yeah.
But as long as the fans have gone to him and they've been respectful, but they've got a right to say something to him, and he has to think about what his next move, what he's going to do. He cannot make this all be about a new stadium. He cannot turn it to that, because as far as I'm concerned, if you haven't got a Manchester United team in a decent stadium that is effectively contesting every single trophy available, what is the point of having, like Tottenham, having a venue? Because it's not a stadium they want. He wants a venue. And for me, that's not football anymore.
And for you, I mean, a lot of criticism towards Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS since they've come in this first year. Of course, we don't expect them to sort out all the mishaps from the Glazers over the last, 18, 19 years since they've been here in 1 year. But they have to accept that, certain decisions they're making, it's appearing that they're complicit in some of this damage.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it last week. The Glazers are probably laughing because Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the spotlight is on him now, and a lot of this is still down to the Glazers 100%. But the way that this man has come in, and with this narrative of I'm a Manchester guy, I grew up on a council estate, I understand what it's like, and then to completely go against that, to do an interview with a fanzine praising the Glazers, saying that they're good people. I've spoke about it before, the way that he's completely and utterly disrespected the women's team, who are second in the WSL, might I add. And you then are treating fans the way that you're treating them. The stewards, you're robbing, what was it, £50, £100 steward of the week? You're robbing that from people. The amount of time it would take for that money to even make a dent, even putting these ticket prices up. I think it was forecast to bring in 1.5 million this season, which is Casemiro's wages for a month. Focus on moving players on like that. Focus on things like that. But, you're completely right. Why are fans having to suffer for these, powerful people that are making horrendous decisions? It's not fair. Yeah,
exactly that, guys. And let us know how you feel about INEOS and some of the decisions that they've taken up since arriving at the football club. Now, after a positive result at Craven Cottage, it's time for the long-awaited return of Ryan Statman Douglas. Thank you for keeping the seat warm for me. Interim vibes last week. And it was good. I like it. Little tag team there.
Yeah, it was. We done all right, didn't we, between us? We're doing all right. You know what? Life comes at you fast. One day, you're in the hot seat, and then you don't get a seat. You stood up. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. But, look, I'm back. and I'm going to break down the Fulham Manchester United
What you got
game.
for us? Because it's a win. It's 2 wins.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In a row. I know we're not doing the Rangers game, but it's
back-to-back.
We always say you're not allowed back unless you come back with positive stuff.
Yeah, and I've got some positivity here. So let's start with some positivity. It's not all positive, but let's start with some positivity, which is Man United have won each of the last 8 Premier League away games against Fulham. We enjoy it there. It is our stomping ground. And when we double down on that, the win on the weekend was just the 3rd in London across 20 games, and all 3 of those wins were against Fulham. So it's just, we enjoy going there. Now, there's a few things that I like to do, and I'm reading into this stat. Is it a case of, and I'll throw over to you, Crookie, is it a case of we couldn't have had a better fixture come our way? Is that basically how it is, on paper?
I don't know about that. I think Fulham have proved themselves to be a good side this season. I was at Stamford Bridge when they beat Chelsea. Obviously, they've got a good recent record of denying Arsenal points as well. So I thought it was a tough game. I predicted United to lose. I was pleasantly surprised. Maybe Fulham not quite at their best, and Paul's already mentioned that perhaps they sunk down to our level. But yeah, I think this was a difficult game to navigate, and I think it's a really positive 3 points. 3 points closer to the magic 40 points, and there's a bit of daylight now between United and the relegation zone.
On task, Crookie. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a classic, was it? Paul, I'll throw over to you. I mean, we've not looked good at Old Trafford. We picked up an away win there. What games are you looking forward to seeing? A game at home or a game away? How are you reading that?
At this moment in time, I would say games away from home. That's where they're better performances. They get a better collective performance as a team away from home. There's too much pressure for a few of those players. They're not handling the situation well at Old Trafford. And it takes a certain kind of player just to be able to play there with any confidence and belief. Yeah. But then to play as well in a team that's not playing well, it takes a really serious character to be able to get through it. At the moment in time, the one player who's guaranteed to turn up is Fernandes in that sense, if you're talking about somebody who can brush things off. I'm not going to say he's everything right and wonderful, but he's the one who stands up. He's the one who wants to prove a point, as we saw with the way he was at Rangers, that goal at the winning goal against Rangers. He's the one you go to.
I couldn't agree more. You preached to the choir about Fernandes. Big fan of his. Let's move on to the next stat. A bit more positivity here. Manchester, well, again, it depends on how you want to read into this, but Manchester United are one of just 4 Premier League sides who are yet to lose a game in all competitions, this is as well, all comps, when they're 1-0 up. That's
brilliant.
That really shocked me. I mean, and they're in good company as well, by the way. It's Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle are the other 3 sides, so they're in good company with that. So they'll go 1-0 up, they don't throw it away. Now, there's 2 ways of looking into it. And I'll go to you about this, Flex. So is it a sign of they lose confidence if they concede first? Or is it a sign of they go 1-0 up and they're fantastic defensively and we can see a game out? How do you read that?
Definitely the first one.
Yeah.
Because you listen to when Ruben Amorim's, giving analysis about us and talking about the moments, like conceding really early goals. I mean, look what we did against Brighton. Look what we did against Forest. Look what we did against... there was another loss in there. Who was the other one at home?
Newcastle.
Terrible. Newcastle. It's kicking off within 4 minutes. You've conceded.
Yeah.
So anything you've worked on, which is actually limited, which he's saying we don't have much training time. So whatever little we did work on with the mentality, with the structure of the team, with being brave with the ball, you concede within 3 or 4 minutes. That's it. You're on the back foot. And like Paul says about the character to go and play under those circumstances when you've conceded first, it's fragile. And then all of a sudden players start getting in their heads. They don't want to take the ball. You don't want to take a risk with the ball. And Ruben spoke about us, when we go down a goal, us trying to fix it immediately, not remaining calm. Then you go and concede another one, which actually in the Brighton game was a little bit of a contrast because we conceded early. But actually what we did do well was get the ball down, start playing a little bit, manage to get the penalty, get back into the game. Then it was a 50-50 game. And then you make mistakes after that again, and you're back to square one. So it also shows with the league table where we are, we're keeping company with Liverpool, Arsenal, and Newcastle in terms of going 1-0 up, but we're 14th or 13th or wherever we are now.
Exactly.
So it also shows the deficiencies in confidence when you do concede.
Yeah, you brought that down beautifully. Ange, can you draw any positives from this stat? I mean, are the defence being underestimated?
I mean, when you look at the defence, it was better against Fulham, definitely. But we don't have, I've said it before, we don't have a defence that is going to take you to like winning a Premier League title. This is a defence that are okay at the moment, but do not have the quality that is needed. You look at somebody like Harry Maguire, he was horrendous against Rangers. And yeah, maybe, you know, he tried to redeem himself a little bit in that Fulham game. Like I say, the defence overall were good, but he's not good enough, is the bottom line. So I think the defence hasn't been horrendous in adapting to this back three or back five, whatever you want to call it. But it's not Premier League winning defence.
I think it's because it's easier for him as well. You've got an extra defender in there.
Yeah.
So half of the time, we're in that sort of U shape from right wing back all the way through to left wing back. We spent a lot of time just passing it across the back line. So when we were getting 60% possession and stuff, teams are going, no problem here. We're comfortable.
Yeah, you're right. And believe it or not, those are the positive positive stats. So let's get slightly more negative here. And let's discuss it, shall we? Next slide, please. 68% of Manchester United's Premier League goals this season have come in the second half, with only Leicester scoring a higher ratio, by the way, 72%. So, again, we talk about being in good company in the last start. Not so much good company in this one, with all due respect to Leicester, who got a good result on the weekend, by the way. Now, Paul, I'll throw over to you here. Does this show, what does it show? Does it show a lack of quality in the attack?
It just shows going from that earlier one, it's about going behind and chasing. And as we watch, you'll see that they'll have a lot of the ball in midfield. It goes to the front and it comes straight back. So they're constantly under pressure. The defence cannot deal with teams that move quickly beyond them. So they're always likely to concede.
Yeah.
And that's one of my reasoning behind that, to be perfectly honest, because the ball's not been held up long enough. The ball retention's not good enough in the attacking third as well. And they've got a big problem that once a team gets over that halfway line and into defensive third, they can't keep the ball out the net.
Oh, I know, it's sad, isn't it? Crookie, why does it take so long for United to get going? Is it tactics? Is it mentality? What do you think?
I think there's been a little bit of fear factor in first halves at times this season. We saw that at the Etihad in particular, when obviously they were behind against Manchester City. Bit too respectful maybe in that first half. Whatever Ruben Amorim said at half-time clearly did the trick. Against Southampton, they were just dreadful, not just for the first half, but for the majority of the second, until they finally sparked into life. So I do think there's a nervousness and anxiety about this team. Ruben's alluded to that himself, particularly at home, actually, where the pressure of that Old Trafford crowd, I think, really weighs heavily on the shoulders. I think, actually, away from home, first priority, keep a clean sheet in the first half, as they did against Fulham, and then go and try and win it in the second half. So away from home, I don't think that stat is worrying, but it is when it comes to home form.
Yeah, good point. On paper, it's a really good result, to be honest with you, 1-0 away to Fulham. It's just when you read in between the lines, it's when you can get bogged down in the details, which is my job. Final stat here, and it's a negative one. I can't dress this one up. Manchester United had to wait until the 42nd minute for their first shot in this game. The 42nd minute, and we're not talking shots on target here, just shot, okay? And it's the joint longest wait since their attempts on goal, basically in the same minute, the 42nd minute, against Arsenal. And both of them have been under Amorim, by the way. So, quite damning flex. How do you look into that one?
We don't know how to... In this system, what we've seen, we don't know how to attack effectively. It's as simple as that. We get into that final third, and what we haven't worked out, because we've got the numerical advantage at the back, so you're talking about you might go longer, keeping a few more clean sheets. It's easier to defend like that because you have three centre-halves and then wing-backs just ahead of that. So you've got a good unit. When you're at the top end of the pitch, you've then trying to turn these wing-backs into attackers. And let's just be honest, unless Ahmad plays at right wing-back, who's shown great adaptability to be able to do that, Mazraoui is not comfortable doing that. Dalot is not comfortable doing that. So you're two attackers down in transition when you've got the ball. And then you've got problems at the number 9 with Rasmus Højlund and Xerxes, depending on who's playing.
Yeah.
And then you've got the 2 10s, which, when it's Garnacho in there, he's trying to adapt of being an inside forward. It's not a natural fit for him. You've got Bruno Fernandes in there, which, listen, like Paul said, he comes in clutch. He's the only one you can really hang your hat on of making things happen. And then Ahmad in the inside 10. You had Anthony having a chance in there, didn't work. Yeah. No Mason Mount. And then you've got Kobe and Ugarte, who, as a pairing, probably doesn't work when you want to be on the front foot. Again, that's why in the bigger games against Liverpool, when we've played against Arsenal, you sit in there, you be competitive, you go after people, you be a bit ugly, stay in the game. When you've now got to go and play in the final third and make things happen and keep the ball ticking over, these partnerships aren't working. So I'm not surprised to see that, and it's going to keep continuing until the profile of player changes.
Do you know what? I'm going to extract little bits of what you've said there and open a question to the panel. Does this kind of further underline, put it in bold, italics, whatever you like, about, and trust me to bring up Garnacho, of course, but the sale of Garnacho, we're already struggling to generate chances, to attack. It further underlines, as I say, why sell him? Paul, you've got your opinions on Garnacho. What do you think about that?
I think they should. If someone's going to come in and pay silly money, you sell him.
Garnacho?
Yeah.
You can't say that to him because listen, this is his guy, Paul. Like, he loves Alejandro Garnacho. This is going to be interesting.
No, I think he's had his moments. He scored, when he first came in, he scored that great goal at Everton. But I just think you look what you get out of him and his game. I just wonder how far he can go. I think he's getting to the pinnacle of his level. I don't think he's got enough. He wants to play on the left. He wants to play wide on the left. He hasn't got natural pace. He hasn't got natural technique to go past people. He needs someone to dive in to go past them. And as well, his decision-making, he can't cross with his left foot. He's always going to cut inside and shoot all the time. I think if someone comes in and offers 40, 50, 60, I think you take it, because you look at it, he's deemed as coming through the club through that way. So again, using this again, PSR, he's of value to go out and get someone proven in that role, in my opinion. I'm really sorry. And I hope
he wants to leave the set.
Listen, I'm fuming. No, look, I hear what you're saying, and I'll offer a counter argument for it. But I hear what you're saying about Garnacho, the indecisiveness. Look, we all talk about that, but I'm talking about a 20-year-old who's got 8 goals and 5 assists this season. Okay, Ahmad is clearly stealing the headlines, but lest we forget, he was one of the bright attacking players last season. And
Ahmad's decision-making is better than Garnacho.
It is, and look, I'm not going to argue that. However, a 20-year-old, I'm asking you, Ahmad aside, how many people are you comparing a 20-year-old that can get 8 goals and 5 assists? He's worked for so many managers. Did you rate Ten Hag? No, we can collectively say by the end of it, we didn't rate Ten Hag. And he was still a bright spark in that side. I think for a 20-year-old, I think 60 million, I think it's laughable. I'll go as far as saying it's laughable.
It depends what you do. I mean, the issue they've got, they paid 55 million for Mason Mount, which has been a disastrous signing.
Yes.
There's no two ways of sugarcoating that. Because of the injuries, it's a disastrous signing. I actually think a fully fit Mason Mount offers an awful lot in this system. Yeah. But if you're going to sell Garnacho to Chelsea for £60 million, then what you've basically done is a swap deal.
Yeah.
And Chelsea would probably come out the better of that. There's talk of Christopher Nkunku. He struggled to stay fit since he was at Chelsea. I wonder what type of temperament and character he's got. Is he what you really want in the dressing room? So I think it's only a good investment in terms of selling Garnacho, an academy product, which is what this football club is built on. It's what the foundations are all about. If you're going to get an upgrade.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there's an upgrade available in this transfer window.
Ange, I'm looking at you. Come on. Garnacho. You're keeping him or you're selling him? Oh, no.
Sad. I don't want to make you sad. For me, I completely agree with Paul that if that money is on the table, it would be a bittersweet departure, because I do agree. I think that there's something there, but I think it would be something we would look at later down the line and think, you know what, maybe that was the right call, because you look at how many... I know, I feel bad. You look at, the amount of forward players, though, that Manchester United have taken a gamble on, invested in, or kept at the club for too long. The bottom line, he doesn't really fit into this system. And the way that I criticise Joshua Zirkzee for not fitting into the system, the way that I criticise Dalot for not fitting into the system, I have to treat everybody the same here. Yeah. And you have to cut the cord at the right time. And if the money is on the table, it might be the right time.
Look, there we are. I'm hearing all the arguments. I'm taking them on board. I'm devastated, not going to lie. Flex, I've got to hand back over to you. I've got to leave.
It's been another busy week off the field with more transfer rumours circulating and a huge advancement on the Old Trafford regeneration plan. But transfer-wise, Crookie, there's been a lot of talk about Alejandro Garnacho. Obviously, we heard from Ryan and we know what his thoughts are, and he hopes he stays at the football club. But in terms of Napoli and Chelsea, these noises are definitely not going away. There's a real possibility. Ruben Amorim non-committal in the press conference before the Fulham game, sort of saying, anything can happen in the window. It was actually after that, actually. Anything can happen in the window. How are you understanding the current state of play with the likes of Chelsea and Napoli and for Garnacho?
Well, the Napoli noises have gone a bit quiet. It looks like they're looking at other targets because they're not willing to pay the type of money that Manchester United would want to sell Garnacho in this window. Chelsea are a difficult club to gauge because they're going to do something between now and Monday night. There's talk maybe of Jean Duran at Aston Villa being a target, and obviously that would take up the type of money they would need to spend on Garnacho. And I think most Chelsea fans feel that if they are going to spend 60 million quid, which I think is still the magic number as far as United are concerned, they should spend it on a number 9 or even a goalkeeper, not necessarily another wide player. So I think it's very much up in the air when it comes to Garnacho. It's interesting that he got the full 90 minutes against Rangers. I agree with Paul because he got a lot of praise for that performance, but I think it was an okay performance. But again, the decision-making in the final third let him down a little bit, but he started 2 of the last 3 Premier League games as well. So I think Amorim is making it clear that there is a pathway for him. It's not a Marcus Rashford situation. There's no issues, as far as I'm told, between the manager and the player in terms of his temperament and the effort he puts in training. So if he stays, I think he'll continue to get game time. Ultimately, it will come down to if United get an offer that meets their valuation. If they do, they'll be willing to do business.
Yeah, you mentioned Marcus Rashford there as well. Looking increasingly difficult for him to secure a move. You know, his agent and representatives have been around Europe for the past 3 weeks and have still come back with a no deal.
It's all rather embarrassing, isn't it? This sort of beauty parade that he's going on.
You know, doing an interview and saying that you essentially want out, would you not have had, and maybe they did, I don't know, maybe you can shed more light, but would you not have had, like, a plan? Because it seems like they didn't even have a plan. He's just said it, and it's like, oh, right, hang on, he's going, we need to just find someone. It seems a bit reckless to me.
I think it's misguided. And actually, that's the word I would use to sum up Marcus Rashford and the people that he surrounds himself with and the people that he's entrusted, you know, massive life-changing career decisions in. Because I agree with Angelina when he came out and said that to Henry Winter. The obvious assumption is, well, he must have his move lined up. It became pretty clear that wasn't the case. AC Milan were punted heavily, but I think as soon as Kyle Walker became available, they switched the tensions to him. Barcelona would be his dream move, but they need to get players out.
I'm sorry, but that's just a bit delusional, isn't it?
Facilitate him. And
I'm
actually,
sorry.
it would be reward as well. You know, Barcelona is one of the elite football clubs in the world. What's Marcus Rashford done in the last 18 months?
This is what I mean. What
move?
planet is he living on that he thinks
The
that
panel has absolutely lost it, guys, by the way.
I will say,
Yamal, forget him. Get Rashford in there. Is he serious?
Well, he
This
plays
is
on the right,
ridiculous.
Rashford on the left.
No,
Okay.
but you look at the other, you've got them.
Rafinha.
Yeah. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. And it is being badly advised, everything. And I keep saying it, but he's got family involved in something they shouldn't be involved in.
Yeah.
Be there, be around him, just be there for him to come back and talk to you about things. But get someone in there who knows that job and what's going on to manage him as a person. And he hasn't got that, and he's let himself down. He's really...
also not got anybody holding him to account other, it seems, than Ruben Amorim.
But what do you guys make of Ruben Amorim's
I'm all for it.
comments? Saying he'd rather play the 60-year-old goalkeeper and coach, on the bench rather than a player who, isn't showing the right attitude.
It's extreme. It's a shock tactic. Yeah. But I think he needs a shock. He needs shaking Marcus Rashford. Because let's be honest, on top form, he's United's best forward. He's better than Højlund. He's clearly better than Xerxes. I know he doesn't want to be a number 9.
Yeah. And the best version of him is better than Garnacho too.
Yeah, 100%. The best version of him probably is United's best player outside of Bruno Fernandes. But we haven't seen the best version of Marcus Rashford for a long time now. He's lost his England place. He's lost out on the chance to play at the European Championships. If that doesn't shock you into some kind of reaction, you have to ask what will. And you listen to Ruben Amorim. I was at the Etihad when he was dropped for that game, and I said, is there a way back, Ruben, for Marcus Rashford? This was after the win. He said, it's up to the player. There's always a way back. Here we are, X amount of weeks later.
Since then, he's saying that now. Yeah. So
what does that tell you about the way that Rashford has reacted to that? You know, it's clearly he's still not putting a shift in training. Clearly he's still not looking after himself in the way that Ruben Amorim wants him to and the way that he conducts himself. And then you see these social media posts congratulating his teammates. It's all optics. It's probably not even written by Marcus Rashford. He needs to wake up. I think he's still going to be a Manchester United player come 11 o'clock on Monday night.
What sort of problem does that pose, Paul? Because, listen, from the player perspective, first of all, I wanted to ask you, what's your position on Ruben Amorim being so public about the players' lack of attitude? United are trying to move him on. United are trying to, in the last week, hope somebody comes in for him. Is it helpful for Ruben Amorim to go, I know it doesn't make sense financially because of his package and stuff. And if he was thinking about where he's at with his head, just to let you know, rather put my goalkeeper coach on the bench than him. So is that helpful? And secondly, where do you stand on if he does stay here? Should he just be away from the squad? Because now the manager's come out so strong and said this. How do you reintegrate him back?
On the first bit, I'm with him. I'm with the manager on what he's done now. During my career, managers spoke up about every player. They was asked a question, if that player wasn't doing it, they would say it. And the way life was then, it was up to you as a player how you dealt with that criticism. And someone will come up and say, I can handle criticism.
Because he said that in the Players' Tribe Room interview, didn't he? Yeah. I can deal with it.
Yeah, no, well, to be honest, it takes a hell of a to deal with it. And the only way you can deal with it is by actions, not by words. 100%. And you have to go and prove a point. He hasn't proved a point yet. And then on the other side of him coming back into the dressing room, I remember an incident with a player while I was at Manchester United. And he got told by Brian Robson what to do with his problem. And obviously a few other words were said, but he virtually told him, your problem is not in here, your problem is upstairs. So if you can't deal with it upstairs, do not bring it down here. So he should be, if he's there, he should train with the players. Nothing wrong with it, unless he's doing something. But until such time, he understands that football is not an individual sport, then he's going to have a problem.
Do you think it's odd that he's still training with them? Because if Ruben Amorim's saying his attitude's this bad that you're not getting him a matchday squad, you're not part of what I'm trying to do here. I'm not liking your attitude. Do you worry or do you have any issue with the fact that he's still allowed to be in first-team training and what sort of impact that's having on the rest of the squad?
He's still giving him a chance. He's offering the opportunity because it's quite easy, as before, what managers would do. They're afraid of reserves or they say, go and train with the youth team. But he's saying, you can show me that you're still with them. I'll keep you with the lads until such time you're not going to be with them. Because at the end of the day, do you want that infection to go down to the ones who are still chasing that opportunity to be with those good pros? The answer to that one, you know yourself. You don't. So it might come to the point of saying, stay away from Carrington.
If he stays, should that happen?
If he ain't going to change his ways, you're not going to have to send him away. Is it going to affect his pricing? Yeah, it will affect it. Slightly, because the damage has been done already. Everyone around the world knows it. Now, if you're Barcelona, if you're AC Milan, all being talked about, as a fan, would you want your football club to bring in a player who hasn't respected his club, his local team, the club he's been with since he was a kid? Would you want that player in your football club? And I think as a fan, you don't really want it that way, Flex. So
his big pal's Jesse Lingard. And that should be a warning in itself. You know, this is the way your career could end up if you don't change your ways.
Yeah, and he's
and a football career doesn't go on forever, as Paul will testify.
Exactly, he's in his prime now. Rashford should be in his prime. Crick, I want to ask you about Christopher Nkunku, though. A lot of links reporting him with a move away from Chelsea, some interest from Bayern, some interest from Manchester United. Man United do need another forward, another 9. He's not a 9. He does his best work as a 10 off the front, for sure. His best work at Leipzig and PSG has been that. But how do you understand that situation?
I think he's got the attributes to play in Ruben Amorim's system. I just wonder, as I mentioned earlier, about the mentality and the character of the player. I think the way this link has come about is obviously there have been discussions between the two football clubs about Garnacho's availability, and Chelsea have thrown in Nkunku, I know, wants to leave as part of that conversation. João Felix mentioned to me earlier as well as someone who may well have been offered to Manchester United. Again, you could see him in one of those number 10 roles, and he's desperate to get out at Stamford Bridge. I think what we're seeing now, because of the way transfers work, and particularly with the PSR, quite often when clubs start talking about one player, in this case Garnacho, other players are thrown into the conversation as well. But I'm not led to believe anything really has developed, either in terms of Nkunku or João Felix at this stage, but never say never. There's still a few days to go.
Patrick Dorgu of Lecce, 20-year-old Dane, looking to, third and final offer really from Manchester United. Apparently that's close to being done.
Well, I think it has to be the final offer because one of the big issues United have got, and the fans are paying the price now in terms of, 66 quid to go and watch the team, is United too often get into a position where they bid against themselves. We mentioned Rasmus Højlund. Didn't need to pay 72 million quid for Rasmus Højlund because nobody else was at the table. They didn't need to pay 55 million quid for Mason Mount in the last year of his contract because nobody else was really at that table either. And I do fear, I don't know enough about this guy. Obviously, Ruben Amorim rates him He's 20 years of age. He's playing in Serie A.
Are you sure with that?
It's a massive step up.
Are you sure the manager is aware of him, or is it someone else doing the buying?
No, from what I'm told,
Feels like this
from
is
what I'm told,
pushed
the
by
manager is a
Ruben,
fan, because he's made that a key position. But what I'm saying is, if they end up paying £30 million, £33 million for a left back, all right, it's not Rasmus Højlund type money. Still seems excessive to me when nobody else is at the table.
But Alex, isn't there a player at Benfica they could go and get?
Yeah, and they've mentioned that. He's a former United player, and they've said, look, one possibility is that we take the buyback option. That feels like a negotiating tactic to me. The fact the club were happy for that information to be out in the public domain at the weekend, and it's to put the pressure on Lecce.
Also, you've got to look at it from Alvaro's situation of this kid, he's been at United for 4 years.
And they didn't fancy him then.
Didn't fancy him then. If you're his agent, you're going, listen, kid, you're out here playing Champions League football, you're playing game in, game out for Benfica. Is the advice to him saying, don't go back at the first call, you'll be fine, your stock's high. Sit here, keep playing. Summer, maybe, get another move or keep getting your football because he didn't get a chance to play much football.
Is he even an attacking wing back in the Dorgu mould, or is he more of a defensive
Exactly,
player?
because he plays left back, and there's been signs there. Dorgu's played at right wing as well, so he can play the attacking side.
I think Dorgu's the one that Amorim wants, and it probably will happen. But I just, again, it seems a hefty price tag, and I wonder if it was West Ham trying to sign Patrick Dorgu and not Manchester United, if we'd be talking about 30-odd million.
We shall find out. OK, that's the latest of the transfer news sorted out. Listen, we've got a big game coming up again. Yes, in midweek, but we're going to talk about the Premier League game against Crystal Palace. Ange, we've got to get back-to-back wins in the league. I mean, I can't even remember the live. We should bring Ryan Statman Douglas back in.
We've not won back-to-back all season in the league.
There you go.
Palace at times, have tested Manchester United over the last couple of seasons, and the hardest thing with this is it is at home. Amorim keeps talking about they're nervous at home. We need a good result at home, and I'm just wary because you don't know what team you're going to get.
OK, let's really quickly lock in these predictions. Give me the numbers. What we got, Crookie? Both games.
I don't think this is quite as good a Palace side as the one that battered us towards the end of last season. Obviously missed Michael Elise. I think Mateta is a real threat, and we've got to keep Eze quiet. Defensively, without Chalobah, they're not quite as strong as they were at the start of the month. So I'm going to go United to win 2-1.
Yeah. And the midweek game?
Well, I'm commentating that game for talkSPORT 2. Well, they've got to win, haven't they? Because
simple.
We can't afford a playoff round and 2 extra fixtures. I think they'll get the job done.
And
midweek, I'll be positive and I'll go 2-0. And then the Palace game, again, we've got to win it. We need a win at home. I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. I'll go 2-1.
Yeah. Paul?
If I look at the game in Europe, I'm going to go 2-0.
OK.
On the Palace game, which is a difficult one, I'm going to go 2-1 because 2-1 seems to be shout for a lot of the teams because no one's scoring a lot of goals.
It's a safe one with United. Yeah. I'm going to echo all of that, all those 2-1s, to be honest with you. What a show. And look, we have to just keep getting points. That is it. That's all we've got time for on this week's Inside Devils. A big thank you to Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly, Ryan Scott Douglas as well, and of course, Paul Parker. We'll see you on another episode next week, guys. Take care.